Hello, Bible readers. It is Thursday. The countdown, the final countdown is at 2. And we are reading from Nehemiah chapters 11 to 13 and 2 Peter. We're starting that one too. The repopulation of Jerusalem was last mentioned in chapter 7, verse 5a. Now we return to that project in chapter 11, having that important part in between that we've been talking about the last couple days. But this still isn't like Nehemiah's memoir. Nehemiah isn't mentioned at the beginning of chapter 11. It's in the third person. The vocabulary is different. Like the Hebrew word for rulers is different in this chapter than it's been in the rest of Nehemiah. Jerusalem is called by an old term, holy city, where it wasn't referred to that way earlier in what we'd call Nehemiah. And the people are casting lots to decide who's going to move rather than following genealogical considerations, which is what has happened before. So this is the kind of stuff that scholars use when they come to opinions about how books of the Bible came together, authorship questions, when they try to date books, why the books are written, like what issues are they written into or are they addressing. These are the kinds of things that they look at. The list of who settles in Jerusalem, you may remember, maybe not. I didn't until I read it in my commentary. The list of who settles in Jerusalem has a parallel in 1 Chronicles 9. In fact, they're very similar. But 1 Chronicles 9, say scholars, probably depends on Nehemiah 11, not the other way around. In chapter 12, we get this list of priests. And I was just going to read a paragraph from my commentary about this. The person who added Nehemiah chapter 12, verses 1 to 26, was intensely concerned with completeness and continuity. It was not enough to report the rebuilding of the wall, the reading of the law, a confessional prayer, a firm agreement to obey God, a list of those who had been resettled in Jerusalem after the completion of the walls, not to mention the dismissal of foreign wives, the dedication of the temple, and the rebuilding of the altar. For the sake of completeness, the reviser also mentions the priests, high priests, and Levites of this community to show how appropriate worship in this new age would be carried out. And then he has another paragraph on continuity was also important for the reviser of the books of Ezra and Nehemiah, blah, blah, blah. But it's kind of like how the Gospel of Luke is the most complete gospel. Give 4 different authors a chance to get at the good news known through Jesus Christ, and you're going to have 4 sets of priorities. Well, one of the big priorities for those who made Ezra and Nehemiah come into what we now see was completeness and continuity. So in the end, Nehemiah sought to build a wall and enforce reforms to create a separate and holy city. Not everybody was on the same page with Nehemiah, we know that, but as Nehemiah prays, remember everything for good. God's remembrance of him and all of them was his only true hope. And I guess that could be ours too, right? Remember us. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. It's the same prayer. It's a Nehemiah prayer. Okay, 2 Peter, probably pseudonymous. Peter was likely long dead at the writing of this letter. God's promise and call, false prophets and teachers, and again, the day of the Lord are central to 2 Peter. 2 Peter is another pastoral letter, and I'll get into more details about 2 Peter tomorrow. I am one with my God. My God is with us, all of us, at all times and in all places.